What's up, y'all? So, I'm gonna do this one in two parts. The title of this one is gonna be The Enemy's Agenda. I want to speak on things from an angle of what exactly is the strategy of that which opposes you in this world, because there is a strategy. They have a strategy, best believe. All right, I'm gonna try to bring up some angles and perspectives that kind of get overlooked, but once I speak on them, they'll make sense and you'll say, I can see that. So, one of the angles, we all have heard the phrase and concept judge a book by its cover. Well, what does that exactly mean? So, generally, that's taking appearance, taking what's face value, taking what's projected to, be the common opinion. You see a nice house, so you assume that everything about the house is nice, you know, but that might not be the case. You see a nice car, you assume that everything's in shape about the car, but that might not be the case. You assume a person's a good person based on what they display to you on a limited amount of time, and there's something different. So, I think everyone's aware of judging a book by its cover negatively. I think that's generally the perspective that gets pushed. Usually, when that concept gets applied, that's what they're talking about. Um, don't count someone out. Don't make assumptions. Uh, those type of things. Uh, I can truly even attest to how judging a book by its cover is detrimental to you. I happen to be a book that's been judged by its cover my whole life, and it'll probably continue to happen until the day I leave this world. But I want to talk to you about a different angle. It's not just about judging a book by its cover and you underestimate someone or you underestimate someone's capacity. Um, Sometimes judging a book by its cover can work against you in the sense that you judge a book by its cover and you sign off on it, or you put too much trust into something or someone. Well, that is actually a more profound tactic of the enemy, is to make you think something's good that actually isn't, and kind of distract you away from looking further into it or analyzing it more or observing it more. So a lot of times in life, what we have is things approach us and they present a nice cover, but if you were to actually open the book and start to read it and get halfway through it, you might start to realize, wait a minute, this cover was very misleading. Um, this cover said something like the guide to success in life. Okay, it says the guide to success in life. That's what the cover says. The cover's got this nice illustration and all of that stuff, nice graphics, and then it's got a little brief description like this book will show you all of the ways to gain success in life, the tricks of the trade from those at the top. Some of the most successful entrepreneurs are going to reveal some of their secrets to you. Things like that. So you get to reading the book, then you find out this book is horrible. It's it's good content, but this book is just showing you the diabolical ins and outs of how the world works and how our society works. And you start to read it, and it's like you start to see how that's being applied to you, and you start to see basically that this book is encouraging you to be evil. Okay, it's it's encouraging you to do white collar crime. It's encouraging you to do pyramid schemes. It's encouraging you to do you know money laundering, things like that. Like, I don't know, like these cash app scams that are going on that everybody seems to just get hooked by. That's a case in point of judging a book by its cover. It's like there's this book called Cash App going around, and somehow or another, it's a top selling book. Everybody is getting hooked on this book, but the reality is it's a scheme. And there are those of you who know this, there are those of you who don't. There may even be some of you who are a part of it, so you already know that I'm telling the truth. I ain't hating on you, but that's judging a book by its cover. And if you are somebody that's involved in that, then you fall into what I'm going to transition to, which is how you can use your cover to people's disadvantage, how you can deceive people with your cover. But anyway, yeah, this book is saying stuff like that. It's breaking down the oh gosh, it's just breaking down all of the schemes. Like there's like 3 chapters just dedicated to Cash App, how you scheme people and how to go about it and how to cover your tracks and how to, and you're reading this book and you're like, oh man, this is a book written by scum giving the details of how to be scummy. And you get to the point where it's like, oh, it's good insight. Now I know like what these crooks are up to. Um, but that's not what you were expecting in the book. You were expecting some noble, ethical, financial advice. You were expecting to learn about investments in the stock market and, you know, free trade and international entrepreneurship and, you know, how to start companies in other countries. And, you were learning those type of things. I mean, learn about a trust fund. Check out what a COD is, and here's how bonds work, and all of that. And, it's interesting how deceiving a cover can be. But that is the point, because best believe the person who wrote that book, they knew where they wanted to lead you, right? All right. That is just a small example, and I guess an analogy that I'm using for how this world comes at you. 9 times out of 10, if you pay attention to those that you end up in opposition with, those that end up giving you problems in this world, those that end up trying to impede your progress, it most often started with you judging their cover wrong. Unless you're just, one of those people that loves to get hurt, loves drama, you see danger, you see a bad relationship opportunity, and you gravitate towards it. Most people, most sane minded people won't do that, you know? Um, a lot of times with jobs, they show you the cover of the book and they don't want you to look into it. They don't want you to maybe review the the company, look up on the company, research the company, maybe talk to some former employees. You know, see how they're doing financially. You know, are they is the business growing? Is it, you know, there's a lot of things. They just want to sell you a cover. They don't want to sell you the book. You'll find out about the book later, but generally it's too late by then. Um, this is a grand scheme of the enemy that you all need to be careful of. A lot of us out here are judging books by their cover. And a cover is just your outside shell, what people can see about you. Your cover is just what's, you know, observable by your eyes. I don't know, maybe your nose. Maybe they got some smelly good stuff on the cover of their book. You know, whatever. Maybe it's, you know, or even how it feels. You know, cool little material it's made of or something like that. But that's just for your senses. That's literally the only purpose of a cover. And in general, let's think about what a cover is. If you are an actual genuine person, and you know, if someone were to read your book, you have to ask yourself, what kind of effort would you put into your cover? What kind of cover would you have? Would you have, well, what kind of cover would you have? Just think about that. There was a book of you. What would your cover look like? See, I'm kind of getting deep with this, but it's intentional. Me personally, if I answer that question and I go first, I would say, you know what? Since I be on some other stuff, you know what I'm saying, out there, definitely thinking abstract. You know what I would want my cover to be? Like, you for real know what I want my cover to be? Transparent. It'd be something crazy. Like, the cover of my book is just like, you can see through the cover of the book and already see the table of contents and stuff like that. It'd be messing people's head up. Like, what? Why would you have a transparent cover? Man, I should put a patent on that shit. Somebody about to put a book out and it's gonna have a transparent cover. I mean, sure, somebody already done it before, maybe even. But anyway, why would I do that? Why would I do that? Why would I have a transparent cover? Why would a person have a transparent cover? Well, it's because of what the purpose of a cover is. Okay, a lot of times people they conceal certain things from people, and then it becomes an issue, and it becomes kind of interesting in what things they choose to conceal from people. A lot of times, this society is encouraging you to conceal your weaknesses, conceal your opinion, conceal your disposition, conceal, you know, conceal your strengths as well as your weaknesses. A lot of times people don't. I can personally speak for myself. Sometimes this world will make you, you can be in certain settings and certain scenarios where you're not inclined to show your best potential or show your best work because it will work against you. So in that situation, most of the time people would cover their strength so maybe it can't get taken advantage of. Maybe they would cover their strength so that it doesn't put a target on their head. A lot of times when you manifest and display your strengths, that's when your opposition starts to grow. So sometimes people kind of lay low and strategically do things, and cover their tracks, cover their moves. Well, You've got evil out here doing the same thing. And if you're evil, or you're just representing that dark energy in the world, one of the number one things you would want to do is conceal your bad and cover your bad book, your bad intentions with a very enticing cover. If a person doesn't have good intentions, they generally will put a lot of effort into their cover. It's almost like those people put the most effort into their cover. A good person, they put some effort into their cover, but they know that their cover is just a part of the book. They're not looking at their cover as like an intricate um, tool. It's funny. It's like there's more effort put into the cover on behalf of evil than there is good. I've always found that interesting how that plays out in life. So, my advice to you all, seriously, don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge a book by its cover and think that there's nothing that you can gain from this book. Don't judge a book by the cover and think that you've got the book figured out and there's no beneficial factor to that book, and just disregard it, because our minds aren't really geared to judge books by their cover. It's literally not possible to have a mind that can judge a book by its cover, because this world is too crazy. It's too intricate. There's too many people that put effort into their cover. We ain't nothing but mammals. But see, here's the funny thing about that. We literally are nothing but mammals. And see, break it down. Mm. I could go to the Garden of Eden with this and talk about that serpent that beguiled Eve. But maybe let's not go that far with it. So, my advice is to not give your trust away so easily. My advice is to not be so agreeable. Those words kind of have a ring to them. What does it mean to be agreeable? Um, what is trust? What is loyalty? What is commitment? Be careful of the things you commit to, because a lot of times the things that'll play out the worst for you have the best covers. Just think back to it. Think about some of the things you've been through in life and how good it seemed from the outside. And then let's be honest. Be honest with yourself. How many diamonds in the rough have you found? I don't know how much luck or fortune you may have in your life. I personally, mm, God been good to me. I struggle. I'm not always on top, but for the most part, He been good to me. I'd say that He has. So it gets to a point where you start to think about the people who aren't trying to be good to you or to this world or to this, you know, community that we live in or to this country we live in. And you have to think about their goal. Their goal is to conceal their bad with their good. Their goal is to push their bad so far into the background that you just disregard it or don't even entertain the fact that there is anything bad about it. Um, You would want people to start to question what they already perceive as bad. See, these people, it's just interesting how people try you out. People size you up a lot. People scout you. It's so interesting. There's a concept of gang stalking. I'll talk about that later in another episode. But people tend to know of you more than you give them credit before they engage you. And from what they know of you, they generally try to figure out how to play you, how they're gonna play you, like what approach. They already know what their goal is, maybe what they want from you. Now they're just figuring out how to play you, and it's almost predatorial in a sense. That's why I said we ain't nothing but mammals, because if you think about it, if you're a like think about in nature how many animals there are that cover themselves with their environment, or have some type of camouflage, or anglerfish or something with a little light bulb just dangling in the dark, like, hey, look at this light. Their whole goal is to deceive their prey, right? Trapdoor spider. I mean, uh, I don't know. Even I guess it would even go adverse, which is even more profound, like a walking stick. They use cover in a good way. That's a whole nother level. I'll talk about that maybe in the second part. When you start to use cover against people, like a a blowfish, deceptively looks more capable and threatening than it actually is. But you have to think about, even then, they have studied. I mean, I guess we're talking about the evolution of these insects and animals, but basically, the way they got to that point as some animals is based on their environment. They have taken into account what people are, I mean, what other animals and insects will go for and what they want. So, one becoming a walking stick, that seems pretty smart, because I think it's probable to assume that, like, there's not a lot of insects and animals just walking around eating sticks. So if you look like a stick, then you you might be able to kind of just blend in. But you have to know that, and they know that, and they use it to their advantage. Um, Same thing with a shark. Uh, Not a shark. I'm sorry. What's the thing I said? An anglerfish. Same thing with something like an anglerfish. They know that this light is going to attract people down here in this deep darkness. If there was a bunch of light down there, then they wouldn't have that cover. So they're using their environment to their advantage. Um, Possums. Possums play dead. So that would be a cover. Why would a possum play dead? Because a possum has it built into their, evolution that most of these animals and predators don't want to eat something dead. I'm sure there's a lot of animals that play dead. Like, oh, there's my cover. I already know this ain't a cover that you don't want to read this book. I know you don't want to read this book. That's why I got this cover. And I don't want you to read this book. Please don't read this book. Don't eat me. But they know. They know that cover. Are they trying to eat you? They know that this is going to lure you in. Do you not think humans do the same thing? I mean, we don't eat each other for the most part. Like, I mean, you got crazy civilizations and whatnot. But well, some of us cannibals. No. Anyway, yeah, yeah. I mean, excluding the extreme, like we don't eat each other, but we prey on each other. Well, how do we prey on each other? We prey on each other psychologically and mentally, because we're mental and psychological animals. That's what makes us different from other animals and insects. They are instinctive. They just, you know, they don't be thinking about their subconscious and conscientiously going about things like we do. Like, they don't have the mental capacity. Their brains just aren't on the level that we are. So that's how we do it. We do the same things that they be doing out in the jungle and in the rainforest, like some animals in society, trying to deceive each other, trying to camouflage ourselves. And we do it for several reasons. Sometimes we, like I referenced a walking stick, sometimes it's maybe in your factor or in your best interest to acknowledge that people judge books by their cover. And then you figure that out, and you see how people judge books, and then you base your presentation off of that. I mean, that's an advanced tactic. That's a whole nother level. I might put y'all up on game one day. You know how how you could just use deception against somebody. I'm talking about some crazy stuff like you appear weak. I mean, it's in the art of war, type stuff. You appear weak, you appear vulnerable at a certain spot, but the reality is that's your strongest spot. You're just trying to lure the enemy to your strongest spot, but you're doing that by having it appear as your weakest spot. Interesting. But just know that the adversary is out here doing the same thing to you, to us. They're trying to lure us in so they can prey on us in whatever their manner is. Maybe they want us to be narcissistic supply for them. Maybe they want us to be a minion for them. Maybe they want us to be a workhorse for them. Maybe they just want us to be uh, compliant to them. Some people just want to subjugate you. Just want your subordination for no reason. It's interesting. Um, that's basically the gist of what I was saying. Be careful for this, and know when to use it in your advantage too. Because when I say don't judge a book by its cover, that's me saying that the world judges books by the cover. So sometimes, like a walking stick, it's in your best interest to deceive them with your cover. And sometimes you don't want all the attention that can come with you manifesting everything about yourself. Sometimes you don't want people to know your next move. Sometimes you don't want people to know your opinion. Sometimes you don't want people to know how you think about things. Sometimes you don't want people to know where you've been, where you're coming from. Because a lot of times when people think they have you figured out or that they've seen your cover, and they looked at the front of your cover, then they turn you around and looked at the back of your cover, they'll think they know your book. you know you tell somebody, oh, I was at this place in my life 3 years ago, and I was at this place in my life 5 years ago. They're gonna fill in like 8 chapters in the book. They ain't even gonna read through your book. They're gonna be like, and then they're just gonna kind of fill in some chapters in their head, and it's gonna be on you to kind of dismiss those chapters. You gotta go back and edit the book that they've already written on you because they think they know you. So in your best interest there, you better cover your book. I would. What is the point in even showing them the contents? What's the point in even showing them the table of contents? Like, you don't really want these people to read your book. You don't want these people to know you. Okay? You don't want You don't want to deal with these people. And I challenge you all to figure out who these type of people are. And you know, generally, who these type of people are, I'm gonna tell you basically. I mean, there's so many angles of who these type of people are, but the number one way you can tell the type of people that you don't want to be around are people who judge books by their cover. Someone that's I can have a friend that knows all the hot spots and always knows something entertaining that's going on, but that could be a cover for all of the negative trouble that comes behind this person. You know, I've had friends like that. They always know what's going on. There's always some type of excitement going on in their life. But as time played out, I started to realize, oh, I judged them by their cover. Their cover had party time, turn up, good time, enjoyment. Oh, oh. That's what their cover had on it. But the book had emotional instability, insecurity, hangovers, altercations, fights, wasting your money, uh, late nights, sleeping in, early mornings, uh, having a unplanned kid, uh, DUIs, um, being in the wrong place at the wrong time, just being an innocent bystander, catching a stray bullet or something like that. That's what's in the book. What's in the book is 20 years later, your liver's messed up. 20 years later, you done drained all your spinal fluid out doing drugs. You done you don't have teeth. You know what I'm saying? That's what's in the book. But you didn't want to read it. You didn't want to check that out. You didn't want to research that book because that cover, that cover was nice. But yeah, that's not what that. It's not what that book is. It's just got that nice cover. Relationships. Mm, that cover will get you. That cover say sexy. That cover say all of the things that would entice you. That cover says companionship. That cover says um, loyalty. That cover says compassion. That cover says compromise. That cover says uh, stability, mentally and financially. But that might not be what the book says. And it's very interesting because the more and more books people write, the better they get with their covers. Now, what do I mean by that? That's like a ooh man. That's kind of, let me run that back. The more books people write, the better they get with their covers. So that can even be the relationship game. I'm not trying to down nobody. I'm not trying to say, don't mess with these type of people or anything like that. I'm just being real. Last thing I was going to speak on relationships, people. That's from partnerships to intimate, you know, sexual relationships or just lifelong friends, even family. The more books people write, the better they get with their cover. The first book they wrote, the first relationship they were in, the first person that stole their heart, their cover is probably totally different from the 11th relationship that they're in, the 45th. Think about that. What's on that cover? That cover probably said a lot more about what was in the book in the beginning. The cover was more transparent. The cover was more telling. Then, it's like nobody ends up buying that book, or their books keep on ending up in the trash. But you want people to continue to be interested in you as a person. So what do? You tighten up your cover. Mm. You start to like, well, let me take that pain and suffering that I've been through. Let me take that thing that I struggle with. Let me take that vice that I struggle with off of the cover. Like when I was younger, it was like, I like to turn up. So like it had that on the cover. Might have had you partying or something. I don't know. But now that that's a serious problem for you, like you an alcoholic or something, 20 years later, 30 years later, you done had 20, 30 relationships since then. You some type of addict. You started off as an entrepreneur. Now, as an honest entrepreneur, now you just a scum. It's not gonna show in your later book covers. You're not gonna show that. And you're intentionally not going to show that because you know that no one is going to buy that book. So what do? If you want to find that 45th victim, that 45th boyfriend, that 45th girlfriend, you're having a hot girl summer and you want to find hookup number 3 for the weekend or whatever it is that you're doing. What do you do with that book? You display a cover that people want. You display a cover that people will buy. Just know that they have already played the market and they know what people want to see at this point. They know what people want to see and they know what people don't want to see. There's not many people in life that are showing you what they want you to see. That's why I kind of went back and I said my book would be transparent because I've always lived my life different. It's almost like I don't care what people want to see. Now, that's a whole nother route and road that puts me on in life with that mentality. But about 40 years into it now, um, I've found the deception in what people look for in judging books by their covers and the fallacy. I've found that people will judge my book by its cover and put too much faith in me. They'll put too much trust in me to the point where it works against me. Like, hey, did you honestly think that I was going to turn this situation around by myself in that quick of a time frame? Why did you think that? And it's like, well, I mean, you seemed ambitious and you've had success in the past, and it's like, okay, yes, I have, and yes, I am, but this is a totally different situation, and this is a far more challenging, complex thing. So, you know, or someone gets in a relationship with you, they might think that you can heal them, and at the same time be absorbent of the pain that they're going to give you. So you heal while absorbing damage. That's crazy and profound. They want to heal off of you while you absorb damage. And you start to wonder, like, well, why would this person have even signed me up for this? Why would they do that? You have to think about that. That's because something about your cover said, we can get real deep with this. Something about your cover either said superhero or something about your cover said sucker. Mm. Think about how many people have done you wrong in this world. Think about how many people have gotten over you. And just wonder how many of them, looking at how it played out, and this might mess your head up, but that's kind of where I was wanting to take it at the end of this video. Think about that. Some of the relationships you've been in, some of the jobs you've had, some of the endeavors and experiences that you've had interacting with people. You know you do it. You know you get first impressions of people. You know that you judge books by their cover. It's human nature. I'm telling you to fight that human nature. But since you know you do it, think about how your cover has been judged. People size you up. People stalk you. People observe you. And if you really pay attention to how people come at you and how they interact with you, you can tell what they've seen in your cover. That takes a higher level of experience and thought process on this level, but you'll start to figure it out. You'll start to see when you at the bar and somebody walks up to you and asks you to buy a drink for them. Try going to that same bar the same night next week, but dressed bummy as hell. Like you ain't got shit. Like you can't even afford a drink for yourself. See how many girls come up to you and ask you to buy them a drink. Little simple stuff like that. Uh, and that's just, I'm not even gonna go off that. I'm gonna leave it there because I'm not trying to be silly with it, but it's really silly if you start to think about it. And then you'll start to realize why the people in the world who got enough money to buy everybody in the world a drink, man, they start to move differently. These young people that just got something, they be the ones buying bottles at the bar and doing all of this crazy stuff. Those also tend to be the guys who get negative attention brought their way. So, the OGs, as they call them, they start to know that people judge books by their cover. So let me not try to ball out so much and show out so much because I really don't want that attention. Because inside their book is peace, serenity, calm, structure, order. You know what I'm saying? Uh, Clarity. That's what's in their book. So if that's what's in their book, it's probably not in their best interest to display something on their cover that shows gullible, frugal, um, um, social butterfly. Just I'm the after party guy. If they're not that person, maybe they used to be, but they started to realize that once they showed that on their cover, people just started to take over their book and write whatever they want in their book. So they're like, nah, I want to stay in control of my own book. So I'm not going to display those things. Even if I do those things, even if I can do those things, I'm not going to display it. That's how you should be. Don't judge a book by its cover, and always know that your book is being judged by its cover. Deuces.